was the next victim on the list. She was 30 years old, and there were no prospects in charm. Ach, well, no prospects she hadn't already rejected. And she certainly wasn't going to give Yost Byler a sideways glance ever again. Lord willing, her moving to Wisconsin would be the final nail in the coffin of that relationship. Martha Sue wiped a foolish tear from her cheek. She didn't want to think about Yost Byler, or any other man from Charm, or any other man from anywhere else, for that matter. She didn't want Mommy and Dottie to find her a husband, because, at this point, it would be some widower who was only interested in her as a fra to care for his motherless children, or an old bachelor who was sick of cooking for himself. It didn't matter that Mommy and Dottie had found suitable matches for more than a dozen of their grandchildren. They wouldn't find anyone for Martha Sue because she didn't want a husband. And that was that. Mommy was the dearest soul in the world, and she was going to be very disappointed that Martha Sue didn't want her help finding a husband. But it would be best to let Mommy down sooner than later, before she invited half the single men in Bonduel to dinner. Martha Sue found a pint of deep purple huckleberry raisin jelly on the shelf next to a row of bottles labeled Pickled Kitchen Scraps. She didn't even want to know what that was. Huckleberry raisin jelly on cheesy jalapeno bread was bad enough. Upstairs, someone knocked on the front door, and there were muted Christmas greetings and laughter when the door opened. The family was still gathering. Now would be the perfect time to mention to Mommy that she didn't want a husband and to please not try to set her up with anybody. Mommy would be too distracted to be upset, and then, maybe, Martha Sue could enjoy the party. She hurried up the stairs and into the great room. At least another dozen relatives had arrived since she'd been downstairs. Cousin Titus and his wife, Katie Rose, knelt next to Dottie's easy chair having a conversation with Dottie, while their two little girls ran around the great room with some cousins. Several of Martha Sue's cousins and aunts busied themselves in the kitchen with dinner preparations. Mommy didn't fix Christmas Eve dinner anymore. Her daughters had taken over the meal several years ago with the excuse of easing Mommy's burden, with the added benefit that the Christmas Eve dinner was actually something everyone enjoyed eating. Mommy sat in her rocker, holding the hand of little Isaac, Moses and Leah's youngest, listening intently as he told her something that looked to be very important to a 3-year-old. Marianne and Jethro were there with their twins, as well as Martha Sue's sister Mandy, and Mandy's husband Noah and their kids Elsie, Sam, Beth, and Tyler. Even Cassie and Zach Reynolds had come. Cassie had jumped the fence a few years ago and married Zach, who was a very important doctor in Chicago. Cassie hadn't been baptized, so she hadn't been shunned, and everyone loved having them at get-togethers because Zach told the most interesting medical stories and didn't mind giving piggyback rides to all the great-grandchildren. Martha Sue handed Mandy the jelly. Mandy grimaced when she read the label, then took it into the kitchen to add to the goodies piling up on the counter. Martha Sue sat on the sofa next to Mommy's rocker and waited for Isaac to finish his story about almost getting stepped on by a cow. Mommy listened and nodded at all the right moments and kissed Isaac's finger, which had been injured in a separate incident with a wringer washer. Isaac skipped off to play with his cousins, and Martha Sue found her opportunity. She leaned closer to Mommy. "Mommy, thank you for letting me stay here with you for a few months." Mommy's eyes sparkled. "It's my pleasure." She patted Martha Sue's cheek. "You look so much like your mother, just as pretty as a picture. I might just know some boys who will be very interested to meet you." "Well, Mommy, I want to talk to you about that." Mommy smiled. "Oh, about what?" "Mommy," Martha Sue said, taking her Mommy's hand, "I love you very much." "And I love you. I'm shocked that some nice boy hasn't snatched you up already." Martha Sue cleared her throat. "That's what I want to talk to you about. I know that you invited me to Huckleberry Hill so you could find me a husband."